Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Sword Art Online episode review. This one's going to be for Season 1, Episode 17, Captive Queen. We are still on Volume 3 of the DVD set, and still on Volume 3 of the light novel series. Again, I think the main thing with basically, except the stuff that obviously covers Sword Art Online, basically all the other arcs just basically give a little bit more information because of the nature of a novel format. You get more inner dialogue, you get more descriptions about situations, whereas the anime is more visual about that sort of thing. So there are much more stuff in this arc that kind of like, okay, they go into a little bit more depth explaining about the world. And that's really the only difference. In terms of main story beats, everything basically is hit in this episode that is covered in the light novel. So yeah, very interesting episode overall. I don't think it's as strong as the opening two, but it still plays its role very effectively in that this is the start of the Leafa Kirito team up. That's going to be our kind of main focus over the course of the arc. We get another kind of scene with basically Sugo and Asuna up in the birdcage, and just we start the kind of basically the start of the journey of Kirito heading towards the World Tree. He has someone who knows about the game who's willing to help him, plus the reveal that Leafa is actually Sugaha, and what that means for the story given the way kind of Leafa is thinking things are going to go with Kirito. So lots to cover, and overall I think it's just a really good episode still. Now, the best place to start is the opening scene. We continue directly on after the end of last episode. Kirito kills another one of the guys and then basically says, asks everyone, do you want to fight? And he leaves because if you die, you obviously lose some of your stats. There is a penalty for dying in this game, even if it's not death. And so it's just another thing about Kirito's attitude in these games where he's just like, do you want to fight? No? Fair enough. And then he asks Leafa, even though he's come to save her, do you want to fight? And she's just like, nah, I'll pass too. And then after that, you get the reveal about, okay, remain lights. So when you die, there is a chance to basically revive a person without them resetting a lot of their progress, which is a nice little world building thing. But yeah, from there, the main thing here is just that they talk a bit. You have kind of Yui come out, and you have kind of Leafa's kind of thoughts on Yui, and that like, this is a very different navigation pixie than most. Like as a personality, it's calling him daddy and stuff like that. So she's very confused, but he's kind of all panicky when she kind of comes out, and it's just kind of interesting in that like she was obviously like interested in him just because starter equipment, insanely skilled, doing stuff I've never seen before, and then just his general attitude in the game, being so confident yet knowing very little about the game. It's an interesting dynamic, and it's the way a lot of just characters and the way they kind of see Kirito is that he's interesting because he's so skilled and so confident in the game and stuff like that compared to what you'd expect. He takes it seriously but also likes to have fun. And from there we just get that Leafa just explains, kind of teaches him how to fly without the use of the controller, getting that out of the way so that he doesn't need to do that. But still you get the joke that he's new to it because she forgets to teach him how to land, and you get that that's going to be a skill he needs to master. But again, it's just fun getting to see the kind of animation of the characters flying. Kirito really enjoying just doing all these kind of aerial maneuvers and stuff like that, and really realizing that the ultimate positive goal at the end of the game, being that you unlock the power to fly forever, he begins to see how awesome that is. And then you just see stuff like that. Leafa is actually one of the more powerful players in the game because of her kendo skills. But also I think the book expands on this by saying that she is one of the, it says the 6 most powerful Sylph players in the game. And so she is a kind of player that people do want in their squad, which begins to play into this little arc that they're setting up here, that Recon and the rest of the kind of team that they've partied up with are being a little bit kind of needy with her, that they really want to like pin her down and keep her in their guild. And this obviously plays out as kind of she wants to pair up more and more with Kirito, and she just doesn't want to be tied down to this guild who's maybe not the most interesting. They're not doing kind of stuff that she sees as important. So a lot of little things being set up in addition to the main arc of the series. So there's some nice stuff going on for sure. And then when they actually get to the town, obviously Recon meets up with them, and he's kind of suspicious of Kirito. Of course, you get more information on the whole differences between the races, and that's fundamentally the difference between this and Sword Art Online, is that there are obviously the 9 different races of fairies, and they're all at kind of war with each other. There are some alliances, there are some races that are big enemies with each other. They set it up here that the Sylphs and the Salamanders are very much against each other, whereas the Spriggans are kind of seen as this kind of just wandering kind of race almost, that you don't see many of them around the place. It's the least played race in the entire game because, as gets pointed out later by Leafa, not in this episode, I think in the future, just that they have the least important battle tactic skills and stuff like that. So it's rare to see a powerful Spriggan player basically. Just at their meeting, you get that she explains to him a little bit about the game, that the salamanders are getting more and more powerful, they're becoming more and more organized, which wasn't the case before, and they're planning a raid on the World Tree. And then they go into just some details about, how, in many ways, like how's the World Tree ever going to get cleared when basically by definition only one race, one group can ever get the reward at the end. It requires this kind of selfless coming together of so many players, with only one or two of them actually getting the reward at the end. And with the battle between all the races, that's very unlikely to happen. And you can sort of see that when you get revealed that Sugo is the Fairy King Oberon, that the game was never really meant to be cleared. Fundamentally, the game exists as a place for him to hide his experiments on the players he took from SAO, and it exists as this place for him to keep Asuna secret. The game just happens to be something that a lot of people like, and his company keeps it running, but it's definitely a front for all of this bad stuff that Sugo is doing, and he purposefully made it so that the ultimate goal can't really ever be achieved. Like, is this guy really ever going to grant someone the power of flight at the end? Not really. And then I suppose the most interesting thing that really kind of brings the two together is just that she asks, why are you so interested in the World Tree? And he just mentions, I have to go up and find someone. He doesn't really come out and say that, doesn't explain the whole SAO thing because it's a big issue. Doesn't explain Asuna, just that there's someone up there I need to find and meet. I have to get there as soon as possible. And she sees in him that this is more than just a quest in the game. She sees the seriousness in this. And this is a big thing between the two of them. And especially when, obviously, the reveal comes out and the two understand that, oh, you're Kirito, you're Kazuto, you're Sugaha, that she is gradually beginning to see how real the virtual world can actually be, which again is like the theme of this entire series, not just the first arc, just the whole arc, that you can do important stuff in the virtual world, that it really is a separate world. It's not just a game, that it's so freeing and different that it is this other place you can go to and experience a whole different kind of life almost. And you're beginning to see that here. And so the big moment is obviously when just she realizes that, okay, she has these other things to attend to, but she blows off meeting up with her team. And then as Kirito's about to kind of go off on his own, she kind of just blurts out, no, I want to go with you. And he's kind of like, no, you don't have to do that. But she's very much like, I have to do this. And she she obviously is very embarrassed about saying this. She can't believe that she's actually done it, because this is completely unlike her. That she's just asking to team up with this guy she just met earlier on, but there's something about him that she's just drawn to, and when obviously she logs out and you see who it is, it's the reveal of Suguha. It's really big and important because you can see that she's the way she's seeing this is that potentially she can get over her, I suppose, feelings, conflicted feelings for her brother Kazuto by maybe developing this relationship with Kirito in the real world, but she doesn't know that they're one and the same person. And so it's setting this situation up that she's kind of falling in love with Kirito in the virtual world, and she thinks she's getting over Kazuto, but it's the same person, and you sort of get that thing happen all over again, and it's just such a big reveal when it actually comes out and the two realize what's just happened, and you get that really emotional kind of issue happen. So it's a kind of big reveal, I think, and it just works kind of very well the way they do it. And that, apart from the kendo style, nothing obviously hints, apart from the one line earlier on that, like, I have a secret, Kazuto. I'm not going to tell you about it just yet. Obviously, that's her playing this game, but nothing else really like obviously hints that Leafa is Suguha until the reveal happens. But the only other big scene to talk about is the one at the very end, Asuna and Sugo. And again, these scenes, there's a couple of them over the course of the season. There's just an atmosphere about them that is so creepy, yet it's really kind of well written, really well acted, just in the way everything kind of comes across. Because there's a way they could have done this, and it would have come across as complete kind of really bad kind of fan service. It's kind of over sexualized and stuff like that, but it's not. They're very careful about the way they do it. When there's some fan service in the show for sure with some of the female characters, but they don't really do it too much with Asuna here, despite the kind of situations she's in and the type of villain that Sugo is. They tease at it, but they rather than going for the kind of look at this fan service we're about to do, even though it's kind of a creepy situation, they more go for the fact that, hey, we know you really like Asuna as a character. We're playing this up for like the seriousness of the situation, that this is a horrible situation Asuna's in. She doesn't want this to happen, but she's kind of in a situation where she is kind of helpless, and so just the way they kind of portray her character here is very interesting in that she's very careful about not rebelling too hard against him, not trying to be too strong against what he's clearly trying to do, but also the second she thinks it's kind of going too far, she does say like, no, stop. So it's just this kind of thing about she's trying to protect herself, but if she tries too hard, he maybe will force himself on her. It's very kind of mature in the way they actually approach doing this. Again, like with a shonen anime, it does do some fan service stuff from time to time. You almost would have kind of expect this show to completely go down the kind of vile route and maybe do something like that, but they don't. And it is very kind of, I think, just as I said, maturely done, and I kind of really respect it for that. And I don't know, I haven't seen a lot of people discuss this arc, I suppose, really maturely, and not just have it be like, oh, this arc isn't as good as the first one, so I'll just ignore it completely. Like, there's some really interesting stuff, and, how many shows really do something like this, where they have a villain like this, who's so creepy, and they're clearly alluding to, the fact this kind of, that he has this kind of real rapey vibe about him, and it's just an awful feeling because Asuna is one of my favourite characters in the show, and you hate to see her in this situation, but you can see kind of she's trying to remain strong, but not too strong, because the way Sugo will see that with her. The way he talks about, I want you to be more submissive and stuff like that. When I come back, it's really bad, and then, when he does leave, she just, the kind of strength kind of fades from her, that like, I've gotten through another meeting with this guy without anything really bad happening, and she's just like, right now, there's nothing I can do to get out. I just have to kind of hope that Kirito is alive, that Kirito can somehow come and save me. And there's something that I kind of really like about that they made a good idea like that. They made a kind of point of showing kind of that despite the situation she's in, she's kind of remaining strong, but that she's aware that she does need help in this situation. Now, they do some stuff where obviously she kind of tries to kind of escape on her own. She comes up with a plan, gets out, does a little bit of investigation. You do get some stuff that she manages to do on her own, but fundamentally, like, she has to kind of put a lot of faith in Kirito here to trying to save her and stuff like that. So there's some very kind of clever stuff that ends up kind of coming out over the next kind of couple of episodes. But in general, like I just it's one of those things like it's really rare that just there's these situations that it's hard to this scene is kind of it's hard to watch because you like Asuna as a character so much and you hate Sugo as a villain so much, but it's really well written for what it is. And of course, you know, like I think most people would kind of prefer that they did something different with Asuna in this season. That did show off her strength as a character a little bit more, and I definitely agree with that. But before what they were going for here, this kind of rescue arc, I think they write Asuna effectively enough to make it come across reasonably well, and that I think they very easily could have almost done it where you basically don't really get any scenes of Asuna in the season until Kirito actually finds her. You just have the little tease at the start, maybe one scene with Asuna and Sugo to get across how creepy he is, and then you get the scene at the end. But no, they just fit in a few scenes here and there with Asuna that just keep you up to date with what she's about, which I really like because they have to get that contrast across that Kirito and Yui both desperately want to get Asuna back, and almost take your mind off the fact that they're kind of with more focus on Suguha trying to develop this Leafa Kirito relationship romantically, but obviously Kirito doesn't see it that way at all. Final scene to talk about is just the very last one in the episode. Basically, one of the last ones is just Kirito logging out and just confirms to Yui that we will get her back. This isn't just a dream that you have to kind of have the family reunited. I'll make it a reality. It was just a nice scene to have. But overall, that's the review for episode 3 of the ALO arc, episode 17 overall. Thanks for watching the review, and bye.